Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. Today, we're really talking about the learning journey, and it's going to be maybe a little bit of a vanity podcast, call it what it is, right? Or maybe something for posterity. I wanted to just kind of go back through my history and figure out how I got here. And so I put a few things down on paper. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see I'm here kind of like no makeup, no jewelry, just like here. And so I thought it would be interesting to just kind of start all the way back at the beginning when I first started getting jobs and what I learned from each job that has really helped me today. I really didn't even recognize all of the things that had helped me. My very first job was in the mall at Orange Julius making hot dogs and Orange Julius's, and I got, I don't know, fired or laid off, and I never really understood why. And so I, of course, suffered my first kind of disappointment because I had never really, that had never happened to me before, of course. But I think the lesson was when one door opens, when one door closes, a window opens, because I ended up getting a job at the grocery store, No Frills. For those of you in Canada, you know No Frills as quite a large chain. It's basically a No Frills grocery store. Ended up working there all the way through high school and college and became the trainer. And guess what was introduced? What I was training on at one point was barcode readers. Like we were punching in numbers, $1.79, enter, $1.79 grocery, $1.79 produce. Like we were really, really old school when I first started. So that's how old I am. I'm 58 years old. So that dates me a little bit. But the idea that I could have this amazing start to my career and I excelled at it. I was the fastest cashier. So they always put me on the quick checkout, 1 to 10 items or whatever, fast cash. And I just learned a lot from my 6 years there. And I learned what it was to build something and build on something. So all the way through college, I kept that job. Now, college, guess what I was trained for? You'll never guess. I was trained to be a computer programmer. And the first day, our former military captain, teacher, professor said, 30% of you are not going to make it. And he was right. 30% of the people did not make it. And even though I learned about halfway through, I was not going to be a computer programmer. Back then, we were dealing in the languages of Fortran and COBOL and BASIC and gigantic mainframes. And a job in computer programming either meant that you were writing code all day or you were sitting and monitoring a giant mainframe in a room all by yourself, none of which appealed to me. But what I learned from it, number one, was perseverance, because I stuck that program out despite wanting to quit many, many times. And that was probably the first time I ever stuck anything out. So I learned perseverance, but I also learned logic. It's easy for me now to think in a flow chart. If this happens, then I'm going to do this. If this doesn't happen, then I'm going to do this. Like you learn a lot of logic as a computer programmer. You're just dealing in ones and zeros. And so it really helped me. So also, interesting note, my brother, who has since passed away, had said to me, Jane, I think this computer thing might be something. Maybe you should learn something about it. Well, that was the best advice my brother could have ever given to me. He was kind of my guide, and he passed away when he was 53. So I I miss him as my guide. And I tell you what, of all the guidance he ever gave me, I would say this computer thing might be big. Was pretty prophetic. I don't prophetic. He really called it. And yes, the computer thing was big. And yes, I've always had a confidence and a comfortable kind of feeling about computers. They've never intimidated me as a result of it. And I can really logic my way through things as a result of that training. So while I was in college, I still had the no frills job, but then I quit and I was out into the world. I never wanted to be a computer programmer, but I figured out early on that temp agencies could get me placed in a lot of really interesting jobs. So if you all have someone in your life who you're thinking, get out there and get a job, tell them to go work for a temp agency, because you get to experience incredible things. I really started to understand business because of my temp agency work. So my first one out of college, excuse me, I always had a day job, temp agency, and a night job waitressing. I'll tell you about that in a second. My first job was at a big six accounting firm in Halifax. And whoa, that was an eye-opener. I was the receptionist. And as the receptionist in any position, you really get the lay of the land. You really start to understand what's going on in this company. And boy, the kids who were coming up through and trying to become accountants, what I recognized was they really had to work their butts off to actually get and achieve that job. And I had major respect for them. So I did a big six accounting firm stint. Back then it was called Touche Ross and Company. Good morning, Touche Ross and Company. Still do that in my sleep. I still wake up sometimes putting things down my grocery store job, putting things down the conveyor belt and worrying that I'm getting behind. That's still a reoccurring nightmare even to this day. Here I am 40 years later. Now, the second job that I had out of college was with Canadian Airlines, and I was the receptionist again, and I learned how insanely hard it is to become a flight attendant. Like, that training is so intense because of all of the safety. And so that was a pretty big eye-opener for me as well. Another temp job that I had, this time I was about 25 and I traveled over to Australia, New Zealand, the whole South Pacific for a year. And I landed in Australia, and my friend Lee and I both got jobs working in a grocery store called Woolworths in Sydney. And I have to tell you, the people there were so mean. I lasted 2 days. Lee lasted years. They paid really good, but there was I don't know if they were really behind on their customer service training or what. But the cashiers were all mean to the customers, and they were even mean to us, the newbies. And so I lasted 2 days at that, and I went and got this job at Cobra Car Alarms, and they ended up bringing me back again and again and again. And had I wanted to, I was again the receptionist, but I moved around and moved into different departments because they really liked me. And had I wanted to stay in Australia, I could have done it through Cobra. They thought that I was a gem and that they should keep me. And again, the reason why I went up through the ranks so quickly is because I was just nice to people. They didn't understand customer service. It was really, when I went into the service department and did a stint there, the girl from New Zealand who worked there, Sandra, trained me. I taught her, like, you don't have to be so mean to people, right? Like, she was so, I don't know. So anyway, back when I was 25 years old, I learned that customer service isn't always a given. So, you know how I've always had like the two jobs. So the very first waitressing job, I went to work at the Penalty Box Pub in Halifax. It was right next door to the big center where they played professional hockey. And my friend Vivian Mancini took me under her wing. She was a few years older than me, maybe 5 years older than me. And well, I can't even tell you, we're still friends today, 40 years later. I can't even tell you what an impact Vivian had on my life, because she taught me, and I don't know why I was missing this, but she really helped me learn kindness and compassion. She was so kind to people. At the same time, she was a little bit rough around the edges. If a man tried to hit on her, she often would put him in his place quite quickly. But the penalty box was really an amazing time. Not only did I learn how to be a waitress, but and I still to this day cannot go to the bank and withdraw cash, because I was so used to, for 15 years of my life, having tips in my pocket. I never ever went to the bank to take out cash. And so today, now I'm onto the debit card and I just put everything on the card. But I think it's interesting that, becoming a waitress at one point in your time will uh, create some sort of cash havoc in your life, because I still can't go to the bank. I did end up, I basically decided where I wanted to work and just went and got a job. So I've worked at a lot of pubs here in London, Ontario, my hometown. I worked out in Calgary at a lot of places. There was one job I got because I heard the name of the bar on the radio, Silver Bullet Sports Bar in blah, 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 Calgary. And I just heard it on a radio commercial. And I said to my brother, I'm going to go get the job. I'm going to go get a job at that Silver Bullet Sports Bar. Unfortunately, that was one of the negative experiences that I had as a server, because I learned kind of a little bit about sexual harassment. We had a manager there who I think liked his cocaine, and he would hit on all the girls. And I remember leaving in tears. I don't remember exactly what he did to me, but it wasn't anything physical. It was just when I said no to him, he made my life miserable, I think was how it went. That was my first experience. Had no words for it, had no framework for what was going on, but that was actually sexual harassment in the workplace, which I didn't know about at that time. So I've been learning things and evolving as a human as I go. The best, I have to say, temp job that I ever had was through 3M. So 3M, they make Post-it notes, they make everything. And I worked in that department where they made Post-it notes. And they always wanted to keep me. So I was able to do, like, I would go in and do a maternity leave. So that might have been a 6-month or a year-long project. Here in Canada, by the way, our new moms or dads can take up to a year and a half off for maternity or paternity leave. It's really incredible how the support that new moms get. And my stepdaughter, Katie, just had her third child and took a year and a half. It's hard getting back to work after that with with 2 little ones at home. So here I am working at 3M on my maybe 3rd contract. And the home products department, they were so nice to me. And I had amazing bosses all throughout it, met a lot of really cool people. But this was the power of manifesting once again kicked in. So you might have heard me tell the story of the Les Brown PBS special that I saw. I watched this Live Your Dream special, recorded it on VHS, and watched it again and again and again. And that was the first time I was really exposed to a motivational speaker. And then they started to bring them through at 3M. So I had a little bit of exposure there. But I said to myself, oh, that's what I want to do after I leave 3M. I want to go work for a motivational speaker. And so I was telling Brenda, who worked alongside me at 3M, she was an executive there, that was my goal. And she said, oh my gosh, my best friend Betska just left 3M. She was an executive and she just went and wrote a book about leadership. And now she's become a motivational speaker. You should talk to her. And within a matter of weeks, I had my first job as an agent for a motivational speaker. So that, now, and now I enter into a 30 plus year in the speaking industry, 30 plus years in the speaking industry. First half was as an agent. Second half was as a coach. And I just have to tell you, total life changer. I have gone on to manifest all of the things that I would have wanted in my life, and all of the things I'm so, so grateful for, and have basically learned to build the life of my dreams through the people that I met along the way. Now, one job that I didn't, actually, a few jobs that I didn't mention of note, interesting. I worked at Sunshine Village Ski Resort out in Banff, Canada. I was the assistant to the vice president of marketing, as well as I did a couple of stints there. Dave Irwin, one of the crazy Canucks, he was also a vice president of marketing and operations. And so I did several stints out there, lived up on the top of the hill. Like I took a gondola up, the gondola closed at night and you couldn't get down the hill unless you skied out. On my lunch hour, went and got lost in a snowstorm at the top of the hill. Like it was incredible. And here's my lesson from Sunshine. Don't wait for all the conditions to be right to take advantage of what's right in front of you. So I would wait for the sun to be out and the snow to be great and not too many tourists around to go out skiing. I should be a far, far, far better skier and more advanced than I am because I didn't take advantage as much as I should have of the skiing. So that was an interesting lesson. And a couple of other just kind of cool jobs. I worked on a cruise ship when I was in Australia. That's why Cobra Car Alarms kept hiring me back after my cool jobs. I worked on a cruise ship and went on a couple of tours with them as a drinks hostess, got off of the cruise ship, went up the coast to the Great Barrier Reef to Cairns, and got a job as a deckhand on a fishing trawler. So it's like the coolest because we would trawl all night long and then drop everything in the net in front of us. And basically I'm seeing the Great Barrier Reef on my tray. And then I'm scooping things over the side that we don't want. We were there to fish for prawns. And if it wasn't a prawn, it went over the side. And then all the dolphins would come and eat the prawns or eat the stuff we scooped over the side. So there would be dolphins. And then if they left, you'd look down further and you'd see sharks. So it was quite insane that I went from working on a cruise ship where the drinks stewardesses, I think we were called, we got served our meals from other people who worked on the ship. I went from that to being kind of pampered and catered to over to working on a fishing trawler where I smelled like fish for several weeks of my life. A lot has been learned along the way over these 58 years. And I'll apologize if I've been a little, like I said, this is a vanity piece. I really wanted to document this someday. I'm hoping my kids or grandkids will pull it up and think, oh, I did not know Jima did all those things. anyway, I learned so many things along the way, and I think that that's what life is all about. And if you're not figuring out what the lesson is from all the hard knocks that you take and all the things that you have in your life that are good, you're missing the boat. So thank you for indulging my vanity today, and I'll see you soon, wealthy speakers.